I'm Matthew Martin and I'm the owner of Old Cobran Pastoral, property 20k south of Holbrook. So we're predominantly a Merino sheep enterprise. We do run Angus beef cattle and have a Merino stud as well. The property is about 4,500 acres, 3,000 of it is farmable, and on that we run 5,000 Merino ewes and join about 200 head of Angus cows. So in terms of climate variability, we've definitely seen change. I would say there's more extremes and the length of those periods have been extended as well. So there might be reduced feed availability, or we might get large amounts of rain in a short amount of time, so there's impacts of erosion. I guess a pinpoint would be January 2019. It was right at the end of the dry period, and yeah, things were looking pretty tight and pretty tough. It was when bushfires were happening at the same time, and we had a very hot, dry summer. That was the real turning point. With the extended wet periods, I suppose there's all other challenges to deal with as well. And after reviewing soil tests in the last 12 months, we've seen there's definitely been a reduction in soil fertility just with the amount of water or rainfall. You know, the leaching of all nutrients has been significant. So after coming out of some very dry years and now finishing in a couple of wet years, I guess that's really highlighted the need to be adaptable. So some of the things we've looked at to manage the variability within our climate would be infrastructure, pasture management, and then animal management and genetics. So we first set up the containment feeding lots in beginning of 2018, and look, they've been fairly simple to construct, and we've now built up to the capacity of being able to confinement feed about just over 4,000 adult sheep. Feeding now, compared to trail feeding in the paddock, is less than half the time and twice as enjoyable. Far, far easier. So the feed troughs themselves are simply made out of PVC pipe. They're cut in half and they're pegged to the ground, so the stock aren't actually feeding off the ground, they're always feeding out of a trough to keep it cleaner. The feeding itself is all done mechanically. It's done through a feeder with an auger. All sheep are fed from the outside, so there's no opening gates, going in, dodging sheep. And the same with the water troughs, they're all quite easy to clean, they're just very simple. So the trough itself is a homemade and engineered design. It's all fed via a gravity system from a bore. We've just cut PVC pipe, put a float valve on the end and a cap at the other end, and we've just cut oval-sized holes I think they're about 80 mil in diameter. The idea is to have the least amount of water exposed as possible. Reduction in dirt, dust, vegetable matter getting into the water. And because it's a small source of water, when the sheep come to drink, it's constantly being replenished, so they've got a cool, clean source of water. So trough space is very important. All sheep need to be able to have a feed at once, all at the same time, to reduce the numbers of shy feeders. All pens are rectangular in shape, allowing good access and plenty of trough space along the entire length of the pen. So the two significant impacts of having the confinement pens in place, the first one would be just reduced time and labour costs. It's been massive. And then the second one would be recovery of pastures, the way the pastures grow and respond after the rain. Another improvement we made on infrastructure to manage climate variability would be dams. We've increased dams, increased capacity, we've cleaned dams out, we've put new dams in. This improves water holding capacity, quality, and then also slows down the movement of water through the paddock, so it reduces erosion. Along with confinement feeding, we've also done a lot of fencing to reduce paddock sizes. This allows us to heavily graze paddocks for shorter periods of time and gives longer rest periods for the paddocks. So with using rotational grazing, there's huge benefits, not only for the stock being able to constantly move animals onto fresh paddocks, but also it's great for the grasses itself. This keeps the grass or the pastures more palatable and more productive. So we do have a pasture improvement program in place. In the lead up to it, it could take 3 years in total, through lime application, ripping, rock removal or rock crushing, and then weed control, and then the final year would be sowing of a permanent mix of perennial pastures. The benefits of pasture improvement will be, one, you're growing a preferred species that the livestock like to eat, so it's more palatable, and then also the dry matter production of what the species we're sowing grows is just significantly outweighs the weeds that are growing there beforehand. So this is one of the paddocks that we've pasture improved. It's actually got perennial ryegrass and clover in it. And one of the lessons we've learned is adequate grazing pressure and trying to keep the grasses in a vegetative state rather than a reproductive state. So you can see here there's probably, at my estimate, there's probably about 2,000 kilos a hectare of dry matter, and trying not to allow the grasses to get under, I'd say, 1,200 kilos a hectare is optimum. The perennial mix that we sow allows the pasture species to just be more opportunistic. It'll grow whenever there is rain, whether it's summer or winter. So, and on top of that, the different species that I've gone with are very adaptable, but also fit with our soil type and our environment. We understand it is a fairly lengthy process, but the time it takes is definitely well worth it. Not only infrastructure and pasture management, we've also focused on genetics and our sheep management to select our best genetically performing animals so they can handle our variable climate. We select animals with positive muscle, fat, high growth, and most importantly also low breech wrinkle. So being non-mulesed, there's a financial reward in marketing wool, more access to different markets. There's improvements in animal welfare, it's less stressful for the lambs at marking time, so that increases growth rates. So we've tried to come from a proactive approach from the way we manage the livestock. In joining times, we aim to match our highest stocking density with our highest pasture availability. So there's good feed availability while we've got the most amount of animals on hand. Part of our business, we do have a covenant on about 1,100 acres with the Biodiversity Conservation Trust of New South Wales. So it's a preservation of land for flora and fauna. Parts of it are no grazing, and there are sections that have up to 90 days grazing. Some of the benefits of having the covenant in place with the BCT would be there is a financial gain, an annual payment at the moment, the grazing component of it, and there is also just the personal gain or the personal benefit of preserving something there for the future. We need to be adaptable. Change isn't always a bad thing. We need to go in with an open mind. Just because it worked in the past doesn't mean it'll work into the future. There's always going to be variability within our climate, and if we use the right tools, we can manage our way through them.